trees bear strange fruit.
Susan Donaldson, professor of English at the College of William & Mary, served as guest editor for a special issue on lynching and American culture recently published by the Mississippi Quarterly. Lynching, which claimed the lives of nearly 4,000 people between 1888 and 1945, long has been a topic both of scholarly and personal interest to Donaldson. She talked with us about the resonances of lynching today.
Lynching continues to have certain resonances in American culture. Think about the way Clarence Thomas referred to his confirmation hearings at the U.S. Senate as a high-tech lynching. It also brings to mind the infamous Time magazine cover of O.J. Simpson, which was deliberately darkened to play on age-old fears of black men and violence. It's significant as well that there are disturbing resonances between the phenomenon of lynching and the lynching photographs that emerged in early 20th century American culture, and those photographs that came out of Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq, which have quite disturbing echoes of the whole phenomenon of lynching photographs, which were taken by the perpetrators of lynching mobs and lynching spectacles, and quite often mailed around the country. In many respects, those photographs pictured not just lynching victims, but the mobs who looked directly at the camera, as though to sort of underscore not just their complicity with the event, but their sense of bonding with the audiences of those photographs.
Donaldson approaches lynching in terms of her interest in the politics of storytelling, including the ethical and sociological implications of commemorating atrocities.
So there's quite a lot of debate among historians in particular of lynching about how one goes about representing racial lynchings in particular. What happens if you pay too much attention to the perpetrators? What happens if you pay too much attention to the white mobs? Does that become a way of silencing the victims? Does that become a way of representing the victims as merely passive? Does it ignore their resistance? Does it ignore their subjectivity? Does it become a way of simply reinforcing the dehumanization that these rituals of violence were designed to impose upon them? There are a lot of scholars like Dominique LaCapra and Kathy Carruth who argue that certain events of violence are so disruptive, so painful, so wounding, that they cannot be assimilated into either personal or cultural narratives, and that they emerge in other forms. They emerge in flashbacks, in violence, in forms of hysteria, for that matter.
Donaldson does not need to look far back to establish a personal connection.
One of the essays in our volume is by Edwin Arnold on one of the worst lynchings in Georgia history, the Sam Hose lynching in Noonan, Georgia. And this is a lynching that haunts Noonan to this day, as well as my own hometown, Griffin, Georgia, which is about 25 miles away, because it was in Griffin that Sam Hose was taken off a train by a mob and taken over to Noonan, where he was lynched in a spectacularly public and gruesome fashion. My great-grandfather was sheriff of Griffin in the early years of the 20th century, and so he might well have been a spectator.
Ignoring such dark chapters in our history opens us to the danger of assuming we have moved beyond them.
Certainly, a lot of commentators in the mass media and scholars for that matter are openly skeptical about the whole notion of the United States entering a post-racial era with the election of Barack Obama. Here again, that tends to be sort of a form of resolution. It becomes a form of redemption that may be more of an illusion than a confrontation with the uglier reality of how these issues, how these definitions of race, how these strategies of violence continue to define the way we act collectively.
Southern trees bear strange fruit.